So, Ambassador, less than 24 hours to go. What's keeping you up at night?
Oh, well, look, I don't feel anxious. I'm not staying up at night because I feel like we've really, really done the groundwork to prepare for this election, to prepare Canada and Canadians for a Trump administration or Harris administration. Obviously, like everyone, I'm eager to see how it all turns out, but I know we're ready.
They're each protectionist in their own way, right? We know the manner in which Donald Trump is protectionist, and Kamala Harris was one of 10 U.S. senators who voted against the new NAFTA because she wanted environmental protections. But at the end of the day, is there a better candidate for Canada to protect Canadian interests?
I think that there are opportunities and challenges with either candidate, and that's true of any U.S. administration. It depends on the topic you're talking about. So if you mention trade, obviously former President Trump's policy of potentially applying a 10% tariff on all imports from Canada into the United States, that's not good for Canada, but it's not good for the United States. And we've spent an awful lot of time going around this country talking to Republicans whose state or community or city benefits greatly from Canada being their number one customer and from Canadian investment and job creation in their region. So we've got sort of the groundwork laid to have that conversation with former President Trump should he enter the White House again. That's complicated, but I'm confident that we've done what we need to do to get there.
You mentioned the word groundwork. What are the lessons that Canadian officials have learned from the first time when he was president that could be applied if he were to enter the White House again after tomorrow?
There's a lot, there's a lot. We know him well. The Prime Minister knows him well. We know him well. He is very straightforward. Oftentimes people think, well, he is saying this particular thing, maybe he doesn't really mean it. Generally speaking, he does. Generally speaking, the policies that he's putting forward are policies that he intends to implement, and we need to take that seriously. I think that also he is someone who is very eager to work bilaterally with countries. He's very eager to work transactionally with countries. And that's a strength for us because the United States has no stronger bilateral relationship than the one that they have with us. Economic, security, resilience, just communities, a 9,000 kilometer border, right? It's a huge strength for us. We have a lot to bring to a bilateral conversation with former President Trump should he be elected again.
You mentioned the word transactional as well, right? And in that scenario, one side always has to give up something for the deal to work. How is Canada preparing for that situation, especially on the conversation regarding tariffs, if he does decide to slap a 10% tariff on Canada?
I think that these conversations, and we can take this experience from the renegotiation of the NAFTA, it was complicated, right? And Canadians will remember it was a complicated time, but we came out with a really good deal in the end, and a deal that modernized the foundation of our relationship, and also is not particularly disruptive. Right? It's quite a bit in the tradition of trade agreements. It's an agreement that has led to the biggest trading years in Canada-U.S. history, and that's an agreement that President Trump negotiated when he was in the White House. So he is interested in striking good deals that have good results. So I don't think it's necessarily a zero-sum game. The U.S. has to win, Canada has to lose. I think through that whole process, former President Trump realized the degree to which Canada is a source of strength for America. And I think we can bring that back into the conversation should he re-enter the White House.
As far as the one lesson learned from the first time, what is that? And what would Canada do differently?
I think it's important to start strong with President Trump if he's reelected. I think it's important to say, we are here, we're your neighbor, we're your partner, we're going to be able to get some important things done together. The world has changed, right? There's a lot more security uncertainty in the world. There's a lot more uncertainty around critical products like critical minerals. There's a lot more diversity in energy being produced here in the United States. He's very interested in energy security. He's very interested in sort of strategic goods security. I think we have so much to talk about there. So I think what is important to do is to get in there early and say, okay, here's Canada's value proposition, here's what we should be doing with this relationship, here's how it can make both of us stronger, and and just get to business. He likes to get down to business.
With Kamala Harris, we know her Canadian connection. She spent a few years in Montreal, of course. What are the major unknowns from her?
I think we know a lot about Vice President Harris in her role as Vice President. We worked with her a lot. I have worked with her here in Washington on the space file, on the AI file. She's very interested in tech, and she's very interested in sort of new technologies. So that'll be interesting to understand where she might want to go with that. As you mentioned, a very strong environmentalist. I think that plays to a lot of Canadian strengths. Energy diversity, right? I think that plays to a lot of our strengths. So I think what is maybe unknown for us is where the specific focus might be in the Canada-US relationship. There's a lot of things that she's interested in that we are very active in as well. So what are going to be her first priorities? What are going to be the number one things that she wants to do with us? And I was talking to her senior staff just Friday and her national security advisor just on Friday, and we were kind of trying to play through some of that and understand where her top priorities might be.
Part of your job is to make Americans realize the value that Canada brings to the U.S. Talking about charm offensives, there was a charm offensive done the first time NAFTA was renegotiated. There is a charm offensive underway right now. Can you just compare the two? I mean, is this one more accelerated? Is it bigger? Is it stronger? Is there a more aggressive push? Just compare the two.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. And I have to tell you, the term charm offensive, it makes it sound like there isn't substance to what we're doing. That it's about sort of just being there and being friendly Canadians. It's about a lot more than that. So this time, the goal is to get around the United States and exactly that, to underline the value proposition of Canada in the Canada-US relationship, what we bring to the relationship, and to do it with confidence, to demonstrate the jobs we're creating, to demonstrate the investments that we're making, to demonstrate the economic resiliency that we provide, to demonstrate the energy security that we provide to the Americans. But it is specific in the communities that we visit, but it is general in the sense that it talks about the relationship overall. Last time, when President was in the White House, we were renegotiating the NAFTA, and we were going around the country to talk about very specific proposals that were on the table in that negotiation. So what we talked about was, as I say, this particular proposal isn't going to work for Canada and the US because X, Y, Z. Whereas this time, it's a little bit more around the community that we are in. So at any one time, when we're in Texas or Florida or West Virginia, this is what Canada can do for West Virginia. That's kind of the nuance. But it is all very concrete and fact-based. And in my experience, it's working really well. You know it's working when, I don't need to tell you this, I'm sure you know something is working when people are repeating back to you what you are saying to them. And we've been hearing that now for a couple of months, which makes me very encouraged.
Ambassador, I appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Thanks for coming by.